Today is the 29th of October 2025. The day before yesterday, I spoke about ignorance, avidya, which is blindness, the not knowing of things as they truly are, especially that not knowing of the Four Noble Truths. I also explained that there are two kinds of ignorance, not knowing and knowing wrongly. Both of these relate mostly to the Four Noble Truths. Because of ignorance, people simply do not know the Four Noble Truths, and at the same time they know them wrongly. For example, they do not know that all mundane physical and mental phenomena, excluding hunger or craving, constitute the truth of suffering, but instead they mistakenly regard suffering as happiness. They do not know craving as the cause of suffering, but instead they see it wrongly as cause of happiness. They do not know Nibbana as the cessation of suffering, but rather they think of it wrongly as the cessation of happiness. And they do not know the Noble Eightfold Path as the path leading to the cessation of suffering, but instead they misunderstand it as a path leading to the cessation of happiness. At the end of the previous talk, I began to explain how a meditator comes to know the Four Noble Truths. Before that, I mentioned the specific talks related to each truth. The first Noble Truth is to be comprehended. The second Noble Truth is to be eliminated. The third Noble Truth is to be realized. And the fourth Noble Truth is to be developed. I said that all the presently arising physical and mental objects, whether absorbed during sitting, walking, or daily activities, are suffering. So in very simple terms, when a meditator observes and knows in the present moment, seeing them as they truly are, that is the comprehension of suffering. Let us discuss and explain this using the example of rising and falling. A meditator observes the rising and falling, the rising as rising and the falling as falling. In the beginning, they may perceive it simply as a movement, but as mindfulness and concentration deepen, they begin to notice its distinct characteristics such as tension, tightness, tautness, stiffness, or pressure, as well as other sensations in the abdomen like hardness, softness, warmth, or coldness. Later, they begin to explore the arising and passing away of these sensations, realizing their realizing their impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless nature. Thus, knowing the rising and falling, and thus the rising as rising, the falling as falling, together with their common characteristics, is the realization of the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. It is true that this is not yet the realization through path and fruition knowledge. However, it is the preliminary realization of the truth of suffering, a direct experiential understanding that prepares the mind for deeper insight. At this moment, the ignorance that fail to know suffering as suffering and that mistakenly perceives suffering as happiness is completely absent. I repeat, at this moment, the ignorance that fail to know suffering as suffering and that mistakenly perceives suffering as happiness is completely absent. Now, the interesting thing is that when a meditator accomplishes the first task, that is the comprehension of suffering, they also accomplish the remaining three tasks. How? When a meditator comprehends suffering as suffering with the presence of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, at that very moment, craving is absent. There is neither craving for the presently arising object nor craving for any other object. This is how a meditator eliminates the craving tanha, which is the cause of suffering. It is true that craving is not yet completely uprooted, but this momentary elimination is crucial. It serves as the essential foundation for its final and permanent uprooting. As a meditator eliminates tanha, the hunger or craving, then grasping, upadana, action, karma, and other volitional performances that would normally arise from that craving have no chance to arise. You may recall the phrase tanha pachaya upadana. Upadana pachaya bhava means conditioned by craving. There is grasping. Conditioned by grasping, there is becoming, and so on. This means that when tanha, the craving, is cut off, when the craving is cut off, then subsequent links in the chain, grasping, becoming, and birth, are also interrupted. In that very moment, the cause of future existence ceases. This is called the momentary cessation of the awful cycle, and it is the momentary realization of the third noble truth, the cessation of suffering. Although this is not yet the realization through path knowledge, but it serves as the essential foundation for that ultimate realization. And when comprehension, elimination, and realization are taking place, this is possible only through the Noble Eightfold Path. This means that at that very moment, the Eightfold Path is present and being developed. Practically speaking, at that moment, Samma Sankappa, right thought or right application, the mind's accurate aiming at the meditation object is present. Samma Ditti, right view, the clear understanding and knowing of the object as it truly is present. Samma Vayama, right effort, the skillful effort applied to observe and sustain mindfulness is present. Samma Sati, right mindfulness, the penetrating awareness directed toward the object is present. Samma Samadhi, right concentration, the unification of all mental factors on the object is present. Then the three morality related path factor, right speech, samma vaca, right action, samma kamanta, and right livelihood, samma ajiva, are also present since the meditator is observing the 8 precepts, and the volition to refrain from misdeeds is already established in the mind. So this means that the Eightfold Path is being developed at that very moment. Again, it is not yet the noble eightfold path which arises only path with the path knowledge, but it is the forerunner or the preliminary eightfold path. It is the forerunner or the preliminary eightfold path, the essential foundation that must be cultivated, developed, and sustained each and every moment. So in this way, when a meditator observes the presently arising object with mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, the comprehension of the truth of suffering, the elimination of the cause of suffering, the realization of the cessation of suffering, and the development of the path leading to the cessation of suffering are all being accomplished simultaneously. In other words, simply through the comprehension of the truth of suffering, the remaining three truths are simultaneously accomplished. I repeat this one. Simply through the comprehension of the truth of suffering, the remaining three truths are simultaneously accomplished. That is why meditators should simply try their best to observe each and every presently arising physical and mental phenomena with mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. This is because each and every presently arising physical and mental phenomena is considered as suffering, and by observing them rightly, the meditator fulfills the task of comprehending the truth of suffering. When I say each and every presently arising physical and mental phenomena, meditators may wonder, what about pleasing bodily sensation? What about rapture, mental bliss, and peaceful state? Are they also considered in the truth of suffering? The answer is yes. To understand this, you need to understand the three types of dukkha, suffering. Three types of dukkha. The first is dukkha. The second is viparinama dukkha. And the third is sankhara dukkha. The first dukkha means dukkha of pain, dukkha of suffering. This is the most obvious form: physical pain, mental pain, physical suffering, physical discomfort, mental discomfort. It is the kind of suffering that is directly felt as unpleasant. Everyone recognizes this form of dukkha easily. This is dukkha. The second is viparinama dukkha. Dukkha of change, or dukkha caused by change or transformation. Dukkha of change, or dukkha caused by change or transformation. This refers to the unsatisfactoriness of pleasing experiences because they are impermanent. Even happiness, joy, or bliss are marked by anicca, impermanence. They arise and pass away. They arise and pass away. When they fade, the mind that clings to them feels loss or longing. So when a meditator experience rapture or bliss or any bodily or mental pleasing sensation, these two fall under the truth of dukkha because they are impermanent, they are conditioned, they cannot provide lasting refuge or satisfaction. Thus, they are said to be dukkha of change or dukkha caused by change, pleasing but still within the field of dukkha because they do not escape the mark of change. This is the second one. The third is sankhara dukkha, dukkha of formations. This is the most subtle and philosophical form. It refers to the inherent unsatisfactoriness in all conditioned phenomena, physical or mental, simply because they are conditioned, impermanent, and not self. In Pali, sankhara refers to those things that require continual maintenance to bring into a desired state, or at least to keep them going. I repeat this one. Sankhara refers to those things that require continual maintenance or construction to bring into a desired state, or at least to keep them going. For example, we must constantly maintain the body to keep it healthy, clean, attractive, and alive through food, rest, and care. And the body is made up of physical phenomena. In the same way, the mind consists of mental phenomena that also require continual cultivation and effort to sustain desirable state such as concentration, mindfulness, or pleasant emotions. And this maintenance applies not only to wholesome state such as mindfulness, loving kindness, but also to unwholesome ones. Thus, all presently arising objects, whether physical or mental, are included in the truth of suffering. This means that in meditation, at every moment, you observe them, note them, and comprehend them. At the same time, through vipassana knowledge, you begin to eliminate, realize, and develop the order, the noble truth. Eventually, through path and fruition knowledge, you truly come to know these truths, uprooting the defilements and attaining the victory over them. And as you gain victory over the Mara of defilements, you simultaneously overcome the other Maras as well. What are other Maras? I have already explained. Mara means the killer, which kills, destroys, and obstructs. So there are 5 kinds of Mara. The first is Devaputta Mara. Devaputta Mara. Devaputta, Devaputta Mara. The second is Kilesa Mara, Kilesa, Kilesa Mara. The third is Abhisankhara Mara, Abhisankhara, Abhisankhara, Abhisankhara Mara. The fourth is Khandha Mara, Khandha, Khanda Mara. And the fifth is Machu Mara, Maccu, Machu Mara. In this way, there are 5 kinds of Mara. Explaining one Mara took a month. So the other 4 months will probably take 4 more. The meditators will likely have to come back. Okay, before explaining them in detail, let me say that on the very full moon night of Vaisakha, when the Buddha attained supreme enlightenment, he gained victory over these 5 kinds of Mara and became the omniscient Buddha. Among them, Devaputta Mara is the celestial tempter who seeks to obstruct beings from practicing the Dhamma and attaining liberation. Attaining liberation. Now you may wonder, how can a celestial being or deity obstruct being from practicing the Dhamma, attaining liberation? Just as among human beings there are those of noble and virtuous nature who rejoice in the welfare and prosperity of others, always wishing to help and support, there are also those who are jealous, envious, and displeased with others' success, always seeking to hinder or harm. In the same way, among celestial beings, there are some who delight in the progress of humans on the path of Dhamma, rejoicing in their virtue and wisdom. But there are also those who, out of jealousy, pride, or delusion, do not wish to see humans surpass them in spiritual attainment. Such a being is called Devaputta Mara. He attempts to create obstructs, distractions, and temptations so that beings remain bound to sensual pleasure and do not progress toward liberation. So on that very full moon night of Vaisakha, when the Buddha to be, sat beneath the Bodhi tree, firmly resolved not to rise until he attained supreme enlightenment, Devaputta Mara appeared and tried in various ways to obstruct him. So this is about the first Mara, that is Devaputta Mara, Mara in the form of the celestial being. The second is Kilesa Mara, the Mara of defilements. These are the impurities within the mind, such as greed, hatred, and delusion, which bind beings to endless cycle of birth and death. I believe this Mara needs little explanation, for all of us are quite familiar with how these defilements arise within our own minds, disturb our peace, and prevent us from seeing things as they truly are. The or is Abhisankhara Mara, the Mara of volitional formations. or kamma, producing activities that perpetuate the cycle of rebirth. This mara comprises both wholesome and unwholesome actions, all of which are generated through ignorance. As long as ignorance remains, these volitional formations continue to arise, producing results in the future and binding beings to the cycle of birth and death. In the previous talk, I explained how ignorance gives rise to volitional formations, both wholesome and unwholesome, and how these in turn condition consciousness and the continuation of existence. It is called Mara because it binds beings to the cycle of birth and death, preventing them from attaining liberation. The fourth is Khanda Mara, the Mara of the five aggregates. The Mara of the five aggregates. The five aggregates are form, rupa, feeling, vedana, perception, sanya, mental formation, sankhara, and consciousness, vijnana. Together they constitute what we conventionally call a person or being. These aggregates are impermanent, unsatisfactory and devoid of self. Moreover, as long as these aggregates continue and are not brought to cessation, true liberation cannot be attained and suffering cannot come to an end. They are called Mara because the aggregates themselves are subject to constant change, decay, and dissolution. At any moment they may break apart, bringing about death. And the fifth is Machu Mara, the Mara of death. Death is the great destroyer, bringing an end to the continuity of life. It is called Mara because it destroys the body and the aggregates, cuts off one's opportunity to practice the Dhamma, to develop virtue, concentration, and wisdom, and to attain Nibbana. It can come anytime. It can come at any time to the young or the old, the healthy or the sick, the mindful or heedless. Now the question arises, how can we be victorious over these five maras? How can we be victorious over these five maras? To do so, you must you must primarily gain victory over Kilesa Mara, the Mara of defilements. Once you have conquered Kilesa Mara, you simultaneously gain victory over the other Maras as well. How? When all defilements are completely uprooted, there is no more ignorance and hunger. Without ignorance and hunger, there are no volitional formations, wholesome or unwholesome actions that produce future results. This means there is no more abhisankhara mara. I repeat this one, when there is no more ignorance and hunger. Without ignorance and hunger, there are no volitional formations, wholesome or unwholesome actions that produce future results. This means there is no more abhisankhara mara. You may then wonder, do fully enlightened noble ones no longer perform good deeds? Of course they do. However, their actions are non-resultant actions. They act with wisdom and compassion, but their deeds do not generate new karma, for the roots of ignorance, craving have been completely destroyed. And when there is no abhisankhara mara, no volitional formations, there is neither wholesome or nor unwholesome producing results. You no longer need to be reborn. You no longer need to be reborn. When there is no more rebirth, there are no new aggregates to arise. Just as the Buddha, even after attaining supreme enlightenment, continued to have aggregates generated by past karma for 45 years until his final passing. So as a liberated person may still have aggregates created by past karma. However, after the final life, no new aggregates arise, for there is no more rebirth. Thus, the cessation of volitional formation leads naturally to the end of the aggregates. And when there is the end of the aggregates, there is also the end of the death. Thus, victory over the Machu Mara as well. So, whoever is victorious over these four Maras, Kilesa Mara, Avisankhara Mara, Khanda Mara and Machu Mara, even Devaputta Mara can do nothing to obstruct them. This is how one can gain victory over all 5 Maras by first conquering Kilesa Mara, the Mara of defilements. Once the mind is completely free from greed, hatred and delusion, the other Maras naturally lose their power. Victory over Kilesa Mara leads to the cessation of volitional formation, Abhisankhara Mara, and the end of the aggregates, the end of the aggregates, the Khanda Mara, the end of the death, Machu Mara, and even render the Deva, render the celestial tempter powerless. So thus the ultimate triumph over our true enemy, the inner Mara of defilements, brings complete liberation and Nibbana, the supreme victory. That is why the Buddha said, one who conquers oneself is the greatest and the noblest of conquerors, greater than one who conquers thousands in battle. By overcoming Kilesa Mara, the inner enemy of defilements, one attains mastery over all Maras, victory over oneself, over greed, hatred, and delusion, brings freedom from suffering, the end of revolt, and complete liberation. The inner triumph is the highest, the greatest, and the noblest victory. So that's why may you all overcome the Kilesa Mara, the Mara of defilements, the inner enemy of defilements, and attain mastery over all Maras, gain victory over yourself, over greed, hatred, and delusion, thereby bringing freedom from suffering, the end of the rebirth, and complete liberation. May you achieve the highest, the greatest, and the noblest victory.